Call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
All board members are here except for Becky Felderwood, and Mr. Winter is here, principals.
Motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Additions, subtractions, corrections? Hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We're good. Moving on to item 5, communications recognition.
We have some people who came forward in open forum that we will have to meet about and get back to them.
Moving on to item 6, board committees. CMETs.
Becky is not here today, so I'll just cover some of the highlights of the CMETS meeting. One of the things that's been talked about in the past is the dissolution of CMETS. There was quite a bit of discussion in regards to that. The last CMETS governance meeting last week. A lot of board members speaking to the loss of some of the resources, some superintendents speaking to the loss of some of the resources, but also Alexandra, who's the governance district of it, talking about maybe it's time to go. This is something that has been on the discussion for quite a while with the superintendents and the board. I can tell you from a personal point of view, in talking with Becky and in talking with Steve, we were in support of the dissolution, dissolving it. One of the superintendents brought up a issue of collaboration with the district tech people. The point I made was that could continue on even if CMETS is gone. The board voted that day to dissolve it, that vote of 4-1. So as of July 1st, CMETS will be no more.
And no organization other than informal communication between IT people.
Yep. That will continue. One of the reasons for the vote at that time to move forward with the vote was through already districts have been taking in quotes, talking to different internet servers. We have reached out to a couple different ones. Obviously, we have Arvik right here in town, and all the paperwork and stuff is already moving forward with that. That's why the vote was to move forward, or the idea was to move forward with the vote on that day, and the vote did take place. We are in good shape to move forward without CMETS.
Timeline for establishing internet provider and that kind of thing. We'll have that.
We'll have that all done by then.
PTA did not have. NSBA. Randy, and I got called back early. And you want to give us some feedback or highlights that you took?
3 different seminars I sat in addition to the speaker that talked. And actually, when the speaker talked about AI and how it's coming into the school system, there was also a seminar which kind of tweaked my interest, so I sat through it. Very, very interesting. I was not aware of even what Chat GPT is, but they kind of gave an example and we ran through a scenario through it. It's almost to the point where it's scary, but it's definitely going to be a change and a challenge for the whole education world. You know, they talk about this Chat GPS had the ability to pass the bar and pass an MBA program and actually pass the medical exam, you know, for becoming a doctor. So this thing is really, it's like Google on steroids and then some. It's interesting. And I think pretty much the summit, and the guy from Gustavus, a professor from Gustavus, taught the seminar. And really, I think what it boils down to, what he's saying is the way we teach today cannot be the way we teach tomorrow. And it's more about the discussion and the theories of how we get to an answer and not necessarily the answer itself. It's kind of how he summed it up. But from an educational standpoint, a lot of work coming up in the future. But I don't know how you're going to stop it.
No, I think it leverages students. We need to teach them how to use it appropriately because more and more employers are going to be using it because of its efficiency. It's phenomenal. So
It's scary. It's interesting. It's all everything rolled into one.
Right.
The next thing I sat through was it got a little political, but it was electric buses. I thought it was interesting. More from a data standpoint. Michigan, of the colleges that have received federal grants, they have 100. This is Michigan State University. They have 138 buses. They've gotten grant money from the federal government and their state government in the excess of 55 million or 54 million. University of Minnesota is the 6th highest university. They have 4 buses. They got a grant of 1.6 million. So the other 5 fall somewhere in between 138 and 4. Then they brought it a little bit more from a school standpoint. There's right now 5 or 6 school buses. Monticello leads. I think they've got 4. There's 7 of them. Monticello has 4, and there's 2 in Red Lake, and there's 1 more slated to go up to Red Lake. And they talked about the benefit. And the biggest thing, you think about it like a golf cart. You know, the golf cart is powered to go around the golf cart course 2 times or whatever the distance is on that battery. School buses are the same thing. They stick to a route, they run the route, and then you have a little bit of leeway without the route. So once again, is it something? It's something. I think it's coming. I don't know how quick it's coming. I think there's a lot more hurdles because if you took away the federal funding, the grant money, electric buses are about twice as much as a diesel school bus. If you add the funding from the federal government, they're a quarter of the school bus. So they are cheap, but once again, you also have to have a charging station too. Charging stations cost money for that person. Red Lake, I believe, is owned by the school, so the school's actually getting the funding. Where Monticello, it's a private-owned school bus, and they're getting the funding, and they're already looking outside the box, making these charging stations available to the public in the off-school year. So the months of June, July, and August, that's when they open up to the public for utilizing, or again, it's on the interstate for vacationers and travelers and what have you. So I did grab a packet full of data if you want to look through that. The last thing I went to, apparently I'm pretty one-dimensional because I just kind of stuck with the AI twice and I went with school bus twice. This one was the school bus transportation regulations. Gave us a full pack of all the Minnesota laws. Probably my biggest takeaway on this, because I know our neighboring school district just went contracting with a private company out of Maple Grove. They were the lowest winners of it. They had said on average, it's about 20 to 30% cheaper to contract your busing than it is to keep it in-house. I was thinking, maybe a break even, maybe 10%, but they said 20 to 30%. So that was probably my biggest takeaway. Otherwise, they talked a lot about the regulations and the safety requirements of if you own your buses, and it's a 50-minute seminar. Probably the last 10 minutes they talked about when you contract, it's really about how well the contractors wrote. and how well you stick with the contract and you hold your contractors accountable to the contract. Because once again, we're dealing with taxpayer dollars and we want to be very prudent with the taxpayer dollars. Any questions? That's 3 to 4 hours worth in about 5 minutes.
Well done. Yeah. So one of the ones I went to was cultivating learning from STEM to plate. So it's integrating agriculture into all classes, done by the Minnesota Agricultural Division. And so they put out a book, pamphlet, whatever, lesson plan for K through 5th graders. It comes out 4 times a year. It's free. So it kind of goes through different kinds of agriculture, everything from growing corn to bees to anything. And they also have online videos that the kids can watch in person when they go to these farms. Lots of really interesting stuff, and it's all free because the Department of Agriculture does it. So I brought back some of the magazines, and Terrell shared them with Evan in the elementary, and he's going to look into it and see, because kind of a nice way to integrate science and what's going on in the area. And yeah, so that was really good. Also went to one on solar energy, solar panels. Greg is looking into that right now. The funding is up from the federal and from the state. We'll kick into that. So he's checking into that to see how that works. Went to one for Pathways, which is an online course for kids for CTE classes, kind of basically. So we're checking into that one too. That's all the ones I'll share. A lot of good information.
I went to the keynote address was usually in the past has kind of been this general inspirational talk, and this one was more of a talk about how far behind the whole state of Minnesota is on computer science degrees or computer science training in high school, and it is definitely the biggest growing major in college, and Minnesota is like has the least computer science in secondary schools than anybody in the United States.
I think they said we're 28% of our schools teach computer science.
And the state has a kind of what I would consider kind of token funding that they put in last year, $1 million statewide. But interesting. And then I went to a round table about bond levies and referendums, and not too much news there. And then I got called back home. What's that?
I usually don't share anything off of this stuff.
District technology.
Yeah, so we just met. Steve also talked about the CMETs being dissolved, and Steve will now be submitting the E-rate forms, but he's confident in doing that, so we shouldn't have to worry about that. He's also replacing auditorium lighting control board. And then we spent a lot of time with Kelly New. She was explaining what updates she's done on the website, asking if there were more suggestions. So we spent quite a bit of time on that. So.
Any questions? Moving on to administrative reports, Mr. Duckett.
Yes.
Board members. First semester coming to a close Thursday. We got teacher workshop on Friday. And next up, just a big congratulations to Lydia Proud, who was our VFW Voice of Democracy winner, not only here, but at the state level. So she'll go on to represent Melrose, Minnesota, down in Washington, D.C. here in March. I know I talked to her dad today a little bit about that, and it's a great opportunity for her to win some scholarships if she does well at the state or at the national level. She can win some pretty big scholarships and so on. It's just a really neat thing, part of the community and so on. So definitely worth noting. We've we've got, speaking of band, we've got some band students that are gonna head to see Jersey Boys at Chanhassen in February. And then, not too long from now, we've got 22 German students and a couple of chaperones here on the 8th of February. And they'll be getting their experiential learning classes already on the 9th that morning. I like to visit with those students and those chaperones when they come right away in the morning, just to get them situated and understanding what we're doing here, and so that they can have a really good experience. And they do get an opportunity to see some really neat things in Minnesota, but have some fun too at like Andy's Tower Hills. And they'll go take in a Timberwolves game, and they'll also have the state capitol and those types of things too. So a lot of good things happening.
And we're all, I know that there was some shortage of.
Sounds to me like Rink has not said anything to me since, so I think everything is covered.
Mr. Anderson, thank you. Yeah, good evening. As Mr. Duckett said, the end of the quarter is Thursday. Friday is the grading day for teachers, but our secondary pairs will be in the morning. They're going to go through some MTSS training that our teachers have gone through previously. And then they are going to spend some time going through and talking to teachers and case managers about their second semester schedules that have been created. A couple weeks, we have middle school incentive day. As the winter comes, hopefully there's snow on the ground. They get to, middle school students will choose between skiing at Andy's or Air Max and a movie. They'll swap halfway in between. We'll have two groups that switch for Air Max and a movie. And then as far as testing's coming up, season already, it seems like it gets earlier and earlier every year. Our winter benchmarks, elementary, middle school, high school, are underway. Most of those are complete. Our screeners have been done for our MTSS process by our teachers. And we have the district ACT coming up in early March. Access for ELL testing has begun, so it's starting to hit that season. So yeah, it's busy. And then it's Para Week this week, so I just want to say thank you to that group of people for all the hard work that they do for our students and keep our building afloat.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just had somebody text me, said they're on and they can't hear anybody.
I don't know, it must be something wrong.
I don't know if you did have your mics on or what, but you said you can't.
Something's wrong, but I don't know, 'cause it's the same thing. Because you can tell the voice is coming on now. Somebody doesn't have their computer on at all. Yep.
Yeah.
I would say our progress reports that we do on a weekly basis with the numbers, so I understand.
Really?
As far as kids academic.
That's fantastic.
Ms. Pearson?
Yes, good evening. Like Mr. Anderson said, we are finishing up our benchmark testing, and we have planned to have our benchmark meetings on February 6th, 8th, and 13th. That means we have 2 grade levels a day that meet for a couple hours and review the data, look at student progress, and adjust instruction or interventions accordingly, or hopefully we'll be exiting students out of interventions because they've been reaching their learning targets. And so we'll be working on that beginning of February. Our lead program in grade 5, which is Officer Paul Breath, came and spoke to you guys and shared about making good choices, drug-free choices, and other things. It's going really well. Our goal is to be done around the end of February and to invite the parents in and have a little bit of a celebration of their accomplishments, and doing that around the beginning of March. That will be their parent involvement event when they invite their parents in for a little while. Kindergarten and first grade have already invited their parents in, And kindergarten had a Christmas event, as I had shared, that was coming up at our last meeting in December, and that went well. Grade 1 just invited their moms in and had muffins with their moms and played a math game, read some of their decodable stories and some of their library books to their moms. And that I just gave you one quote that came actually from a grandma. She was the guest of one of our little first graders that she sent in right away. It was great, saying goodbye and thanking parents for coming in at door 1 as they were going out. And it was so many of the moms stopped and didn't just say thank you, but they elaborated and gave us some good feedback and really appreciated the time. They really appreciated seeing what their child was learning. They appreciated that it was a quick, short little time to be able to come in, that they could still make it to work, and a lot of positive feedback for the teachers. So kindergarten and first grade teachers have done a great job of welcoming our families in to the school and showcasing what they are doing and what our kids are doing. So that was great to be able to be a part of last Friday in the first grade. And then 2, I just would like to comment and thank our paraprofessionals. We just appreciate how much support they give our students and our staff, because our school, they are part of our team. So I do appreciate that. And again, that's the Minnesota Paraprofessional Week. I know we have a national week and that's a different week, but our governor says the Minnesota one is this week that he recognizes. So I appreciate them, and as you all do too. Thank you.
Mr. Winter?
Legislative session starts coming up here in February. I've been talking to quite a few superintendents in the area and across the state from our associations. One of the things that especially our lobbying group, Schools for Equity and Education, keep talking about are the inequities in funding. There was a Channel 5 news story just recently on Chisago Lakes. Just do a YouTube, Chisago Lakes, you'll find it. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll get you the web address for that. Chisago Lakes is probably the poster child for schools where they're just caught in the pinch between don't have a levy, can't pass a bond. They're a school about 3 times the size of us, and they are really struggling right now with facilities. Princeton, they had an article in the paper that was highlighted in one of our emails that we received. You know, right now it's all about districts like our district, like Princeton, like Chisago Lakes. You know, how do we get the funds to fix our facilities without being such a burden on the local taxpayers? And that's what we continue to talk about, the inequity and why there is no equity, and the equity has gone away when schools went out and tried to pass bond referendums. The other thing that we've been talking about is increasing the long-term facility and maintenance funding would also be helpful, and also to give us a little bit more flexibility in that. For some that have been on board for quite a while, the thing with long-term facility and maintenance money, you can only replace like for like. You can't do anything else with the money. You can only replace carpeting you already have. You can only replace roofs you already have, but you can't do any modifications outside the scope of replacing like for like. The other thing, and once again, I'm not trying to be critical of those legislatures, but there are still some issues with the READ Act that's out there right now. There are a lot of districts right now that are having some issues, not only with the implementation of probably hitting the deadline. We've talked about this before. Our district is in pretty good shape with that. I don't see any really issues, but there's just some issues they have to work on in terms of the funding and the reimbursement stream for school districts like ours that have already paid for some of those things. Hopefully, we'll see some movement on that at the legislature this year, and we'll certainly keep everybody up to speed on that. And I am on the radio this Friday, and I'll be talking about some of these things a little bit more at length, and that'll be posted on our website later. Thank you.
Any questions from the administrators? I think the board would also like to celebrate and thank our paras for the moving on to treasurer's report. Motion to approve treasurer's report.
So moved.
And a second. Second. Give us some highlights or.
Sure. So basically, we're on track We're looking very similar to last year. We are ahead just a little bit on our state funding. Not so much that's really worth mentioning more than that, but otherwise, everything looks in line and it's flowing smoothly.
Oh, any questions?
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's-
I skipped one.
I'm
Sorry.
just checking to see if I'm paying attention.
We can come back. real quick.
Okay. Any questions about the treasurer's report while we're on it? Or additions? I got that.
Okay.
Prematurely, but we got it. No questions or comments?
Gotta be right.
Sorry.
See, I need all the help I can.
Sorry. All in favor of approving the treasurer's report, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Step back. Motion for approval of the consent agenda.
So move.
And a second? Second.
A topic that came up lately was in regards to our influx of new students. You'll notice on there is a lot of, some hiring some paras, some hiring spring coaches. But you'll see a teacher on there, Riley Campson. She'll start February 5th. She's going to help out with our influx of students that are coming in. Also, Cooper Gert. He's going to be hired as a para to help out for part of the day, working with our EL students. And you can see there's been a little modification in our high school media center over here to provide some extra space for our EL students behind that wall. We're using that wall to help with some of the overflow of EL students right now. We've also, and this question came up earlier, we've also been purchasing additional software. We had some Chromebooks at hand, so we are making the adjustments for those students to make sure that we serve those students. But other than that, just some more leaves of absence and hiring of coaches. We'll pretty much highlight the personnel.
Questions, comments, corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the consent agenda as listed, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Back to the world where 11 comes after 10. Action items, item A, donations and gifts, bless you. A motion to approve donations and gifts as listed.
So move.
And a second.
Second.
Some donations to our choir, and I believe those donations are going to go for their field trip to the Ordway Theater.
Beyond expressing our appreciation, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
Have to do a roll call. Yeah. Pat,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
me, yes. Melissa,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
motion approved.
Item B, under action items, a motion to approve, motion to increase rates for lifeguards, swim instructors, and incentive program for training due to shortages in lifeguards for before and after school programs.
So move.
And a second.
A second.
Background?
Yeah, this is something Kelly New and I have been talking about. Lifeguard shortages and swim instructors is not a Melrose issue. It's across the state of Minnesota. And as we look forward to next summer, Kelly and I have been meeting to talk about it. She's been talking with some of the students of maybe increasing the pay rate per hour for some of those lifeguards from 13 to 15 an hour, and the increase of swim instructors from $14 to $16 an hour. And her and I have also, mostly her, been working on an incentive program to help offset some of the costs for getting those people certified for those programs. So they're out there, help increase the pay a little bit may help, and also to help out pay for some of those certification costs. We think that will help with our lifeguard shortage this summer during our programs.
How much is it to do a certification? What's that general?
Kelly,
It's around $200 to $250,
Yeah.
depending upon where you get trained.
And is it a one-time certification or do you have to get it renewed?
You have to renew every 2 years.
And is the same price to renew that?
It's slightly lower because you don't have to do, you just have to do the in-school training, you don't have to do all. And we can, Coach Meyer is a certified instructor, and so we can do a lot of the training here in-house.
Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Hopefully it helps.
Yeah.
we need them.
Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Item C, motion to approve professional development plan.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Background.
Yep, this is something the PD committee started work on last summer, kind of been working on it throughout the fall of the year. I included the copy in it with the changes in it, and I know it's been a while since the board has approved a professional development plan. So this is kind of step one in the process to make some of those subtle changes in the PD form. And from this, we can then move forward of starting to create the teacher development and evaluation program, TD&E, as it's called. The professional development committee and myself were we're kind of surveying other schools and where they're at, kind of the old beg, borrow, and steal if we have to in terms of some of their TD&E programs that they have. Just glancing through the professional development plan, you'll see there a lot of it now is being tied to our world's best workforce, some of the goals that are set forth within that program, and also making sure that it's reflective of our EL population. And this was certainly before the current influx of those students. And just some protocol issues in there, the development of the PD program. One of the things that we're going to be looking at in the development of the PD program is the peer review program, which has been kind of on the back burner for a couple of years. They want to get that going, but kind of revitalize it and revise it a little bit. Also take a look at our mentorship program, which we've had in place for quite a few years and has worked fairly well. And other than that, it was just some changes in the protocol and the PD plan to make sure that it's aligned with the school board procedures that are put in place at the organizational meeting. Once again, this is kind of a good start to really revamping the whole PD program.
Questions for Greg? Comments from the principals? This is the product of the committee.
Yeah, Melissa Peterson and Nicole Journey doing a nice job of working with their committees on this.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the professional development plan? Aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. For the sake of the students that are here, the next items that are going to be voted on are 4 policies. School district is kind of governed by a list of policies dealing with a variety of subjects, and those need to be updated because issues change and circumstances change. A lot of these changes, a lot of the policies and changes of the policies come from the Minnesota State School Board Association. The process for approving those is, it first is reviewed by the policy committee, and then it comes to the board for review. And after after 3 reviews, then it's voted on. 2 reviews, these 4 policies have been brought up and discussed at previous board meetings on 2 occasions. Then on the 3rd, and in the process of that, if there's revisions or corrections, then we make those revisions, and then by the 3rd time, we take a vote, and that's what we're doing now. First being policy 509, enrollment of non-resident students. Motion to approve policy 509.
So moved.
A second.
Second.
No changes from the previous readings.
No changes from review 1 and 2.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Item E, a motion to approve policy 516.5 regarding overdose medication.
I'll make a motion.
And a second.
I'll second.
Again, no changes from the previous 2 readings. Questions or comments from the board? Hearing none. All in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. How we doing? Item F, motion to approve policy 534 regarding school meal policy.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Again,
This is why you do 3 revisions.
Yep.
A question came up about this last time, so I did go back to food service, and we sat down, we took a look at it. Nothing really changed per se in the policy, they just wanted to clean up a bunch of language. That policy, which sits on our district website, what was changed this time is in green, both in strikeout language and new language. So for example, on page 1, under Roman numeral purpose, a la carte was added. What was struck out was the second school meal. We do not offer second school meal. Any additional entree is an a la carte. I'll just go through these very quickly. Under 2A, once again, when the balance hits 0 in your account for a la carte, you cannot charge any additional amount for a la carte. However, you can pay cash at that time if you don't want to put money in your account. Bottom of page 1, we do not participate in the United States of Agricultural School Program. That's a different program. Page 2, letter D is struck out. They wanted to clean up the language about serving the students. Since all meals are free, they struck that language out. Number E, we don't have snack items, we just have a la carte. So they changed that just to clean up the verbiage. Under all of Roman numeral 3, since all the meals are free, they wanted all that language struck out. The same thing with Roman numeral number 4, unpaid meal charges. Since there won't be unpaid meal charges, they wanted to clean that up.
So could they still go negative on the balance?
Can't, the only thing you can go negative is on a la carte because the meals are free. And if you go negative on a la carte, you just can't do a la carte anymore.
But you can pay cash and still get all.
Correct, you can't do that.
Without bringing the account.
You don't have to put any money in your account if you're just gonna be
But
paid
it
cash all
could,
the
but it
time.
could still be negative, you
Yes.
don't have to,
A la carte.
so they wouldn't have to pay that off before they could start paying cash.
Well, eventually they'll have to pay it off, yes. Finally, C on the last page, page 4, we don't contract out, so they're the one that language struck out. And Roman numeral number 6, since all meals are free, the lunch committee has been put on hold for now. One of the reasons why they really wanted to clean it up, many people, including myself, even though this is costing the state of Minnesota some money, more than what they predicted, there are many schools and many people feel that the benefit is worth the additional cost. So we don't see this going away anytime soon.
It was on the news, how many more meals they have, how many more millions of dollars it has already cost the state of Minnesota, way beyond what they thought. Because more people are using it.
Tastes better when it's free.
What'd you say?
Food tastes better when it's free.
So yeah, third revision, there are some significant ones there. It's on the website. I did share it up with the committee as well, previous to time.
Any questions about the policy or the revisions or hesitations about voting on approving it? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion to approve policy 602, organization of school calendar and school day. And a second?
Second.
No changes in the last 2 readings. Questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right. A motion for adjournment of the open meeting for the purpose of closing the meeting for the intention of superintendent evaluation and negotiation discussions.
Do you close your open meetings before you, or close the open meeting before you close the meeting?
Well, we make the motion, then we take a 5-minute break, and we reconvene. And it's
I'm
closed.
just wondering, because the proper procedure at the city is your open meeting stays open till the end. I'm not trying to split hairs here, but
I don't know how the city does this, is the way we've always done it. But we'll make the motion to close it, take a 2-minute break, in case we can do this rest, and then we come back to close session.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
I didn't get a motion to close.
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
Second. Eric second.
No.
All in favor, aye. Aye. And all opposed, same sign.
We're just checking to see if I'm